Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be reviewing the Magicshine MJ-902S and MJ-906 bicycle headlights. Magishine's MJ series of bike lights are perhaps one of the most popular product lineups. They're really well known for their high output and budget-friendly prices. And today we're going to be looking at two of the brightest variations in that lineup, the 902S and the updated 906S. Now in terms of packaging, it's really simple. You just get a cardboard box, a nice reflective graphic on the front that shows the light, Magishine's iconic orange coloring here, and white text. You have all the specs of the light on the back, as well as the FL1 tested, and some of the light and beam intensity information on here. Both lights are very similarly sized. They're actually identical. So I'll go ahead and open one, and while I do that, we'll go over the specs. So the 902S is the 3000 lumen variation, and that retails for $139.99. It uses the MJ-6116C battery, which is one of the biggest differences here. This is the slightly lower capacity battery pack. They are all Garmin compatible, which is very cool. That means you can use this with any kind of out front mount or GoPro Garmin compatible adapter. And perhaps one of the biggest things here is the fact that they've integrated the DRL. So if I pop the light out of the nice foam holder, you can see the light actually is a dual LED design with a DRL integrated on the top with these horizontal deflectors. That's probably one of the biggest changes over the previous 906 and 902. They're also e-bike compatible, which is really cool. So instead of running the battery pack, you can actually wire this directly to your e-bike, and it'll automatically adjust the light output based on the input voltage, which is one of the new features. Now the 906 is the same light, but with a higher output programming. So the 906 is $109.99. It's 4,500 lumens, and this one comes with the MJ-8118 battery pack, and that is a USB Type-C rechargeable battery pack with a higher output, something we've seen with the MO55 Pro and the Montier 8000S. Otherwise, same features, dual LED, DRLs, and the Garmin mount. Now in terms of what comes in the box, they both have very similar packaging, foam holder, the light. You get the handlebar mount, something we've seen with all their other lights, such as the Altis. Really simple. I don't really like this mount. It requires a little tool and a hinge here. You get the battery pack, and as I mentioned, depending on which one you pick, the price is really driven by the battery pack, which is higher output and allows you to run it at a higher setting. You get the instruction manual, and then you get a little goodie box here. Go ahead and take out, see what we have in here. So you have the Velcro straps, and that's to mount it to your bike. You get different length straps for the handlebar mount. You have a little gasket cover for the battery pack if you don't want to use it as a, if you want to use it as a power bank instead of a bike light. And then when you want to use it as a bike light, you get the attachment here that just snaps into place. Little Allen key for the handlebar mount. You also get the charging cable. Now, depending on which one you get, the 902 will have the micro USB charging cable, while the 906 will have a USB Type-C. And then you also get a little adapter for GoPro to Garmin. And this is a really nice feature, so if you already have a GoPro helmet mount or any other GoPro style adapter, you can just connect this to that and then put the headlight on there and use it on that mount. Now let's take a look at the weight of the MJ-902 and 906. So you can see both headlights are actually pretty much identical. So if we look at the 906, just the headlamp, that comes in at 78 grams. And the 902, I would expect very similar. So 78 grams. The main difference here are the battery pack. So if we look at the smaller battery pack that comes with the 902 with the Velcro straps and the attachment, That comes in at 302 grams. And if we do the same comparison with the larger 8118 battery pack, it says higher capacity and USB Type-C charging, that comes in at 422 grams. You also have the little handlebar mount. Unlike the Montier 8000, which includes the out front mount, this just comes with the standard little plastic mount for your handlebar. That comes in at 14 grams, so fairly light. Now let's take a look at the fit and finish of the 902 and 906. Now right off the bat, you can see the 902 and 906 are almost identical, which is one reason we kind of combine these reviews into one. They're a lot more compact than the previous generation 900 series, where the previous 906 was huge and the 908 even larger. With these downsized 902 and 906, you get a dual LED design, integrated DRLs, a nice aluminum body with a simple power button on top, and the biggest change is the Garmin mount. So I'll go ahead and put one of these down. We'll put the 906 down. You have a Garmin mount, which is one of the biggest changes. Instead of the rubber straps, which were a little rough to use before, this is a lot more secure, and now you can use a lot of out front mounts right off the market. Most of the size of the headlamp is the heat fin, so you can see how large these heat fins are to dissipate the heat from the LEDs. And these produce quite a bit of heat. At 3,000, 4,500 lumens, these are really bright lights. Very simple aluminum body with the rubber power button. The model indicator is printed here and Magicshine is written on top. You have nice shielding on the lens. You can see the little extension here, and that helps it not get into your eye when you're out of the saddle. But you do have a nice little recessed LED or lens here that helps the lights actually get some side visibility, so when you're riding, people will still see you, and that's great for commuting or at four-way intersections where cars might not see you directly from up front. So with the lower price $200 902, you get a USB type, micro USB instead of a USB Type-C that you get with the 906. Slightly lower capacity, which results in the lower output of the lights. And then the battery packs themselves, you can see the other one is quite a bit larger and heavier, but otherwise really similar. I really like what Magicshine has done with these removable connectors. So if you don't want to use this as a bike light, you can actually just use this as a power bank. So you remove one of the gaskets on one side, connect a USB cable, and you can charge other devices. You can also check the battery status by just clicking that button. Really nice feature. Same thing with the 8118. So on this one, it's all on one side. You can click that power button, and you can see behind there's LEDs. So same 3 indicator, and this one has a USB Type-C, which I think is worth the little premium over the 902, as you don't need as many connectors with this. So it's really nice to see the USB Type-C gaining traction at Magicshine. So we've seen that with the Ulti-Light, the RN, and with the larger battery pack. If this looks familiar, it's actually because it's the same battery pack as the 8000S. So a lot of power in this that can give you up to 8,000 lumens with the right LED setup. Now, being a wired setup, you do have to connect this to your bike. And the nice thing is both of these battery packs have built-in slots. Nice little rubber grips here to prevent scratching your frame. And they use the same Magicshine Velcro straps. And these work really well. Both of them require 2 to hold them securely, and they don't scratch and hold really firmly as well. Now with both lights, you get 15 different output modes, which is a lot. And that means you can run the DRL by itself, the DRL plus the left LED only, the DRL plus the right LED only, or both left and right plus DRL. And as you can see here, there's actually no visual difference between the left and the right. They're just slightly offset from each other, so there's not much advantage to use either. It's much better just to pick one and then use the dual mode when you need the output. It's very obvious when you look at the side profile of this light that the beam cutoff is very soft, even though it has the horizontal deflectors that help focus a little bit more light on the ground. This is still a light that has a lot of glare and should be used with caution on the road. Now let's go over the different output modes. I would describe the beam pattern of the light to be more of a spotlight. As you can see, it's a brighter spot in the center with nice large jumps between the 4 different constant modes. As I mentioned, you can run left or right only, and they all look identical, with the lumen going up as you increase intensity and the run times going down. The 906 has particularly long run time, so you can definitely use this without having to recharge the battery very often. The jumps are also quite large, so as you can see, it's 1,000 lumens between some of the different low, medium, high modes as well. There are 2 flashes, and one that's really bright at 0 to 2300 lumen, and a lower intensity one at 0 to 600. Here you can see the light output on the road. We found the beam pattern to be really nice for riding with, as you have nice throw with pretty good width as well as you go up the intensities. The intensities are also well spaced, so the lower settings are actually decent when it's a little bit brighter outside, and then you could definitely ramp it up to medium or high when you really need it. As with a lot of more powerful Magicshine lights, you really don't need the maximum mode. 3000 lumen and 4500 lumen for the 906S are definitely overkill. The lights also do heat up quite a bit, so depending on which temperature you're riding in, you might notice the output drop a little bit in the turbo or high modes, but otherwise they've done a good job with the heat fins to dissipate the heat. One thing to point out is that the previous 900 series actually used to come with these nice fabric carrying cases, and these are really nice. So they had a laser cutout foam insert and a little storage area for all the accessories. So if you're watching for Magicshine, it'd be great to see this return on the new Magicshine lights. Now that aside, the big thing is the battery pack. So with the 900S, you get the very small battery pack. This is 2 18650 batteries. With the 902, you get the larger 6116 battery pack. And then with the highest output variation, you get the 8118 USB Type-C, which has the 21700 series lithium-ion battery. So bigger battery, higher capacity. Same thing you have with the Montier 8000, which has the super impressive 8000 lumens of output. So obviously, depending on what kind of light output you need, you get different size battery pack. They get bulkier and heavier, so if you're more of a commuter, you can stick with the 900. If you're on dark trails all the time and you want tons of runtime, you go with the biggest battery pack you can. Now, putting the 900s side by side, you can see the main difference between the 900 and the 902 and 906 is the fact that the 900 has a single LED. Otherwise, they all have a DRL, similar power button setup. And then you have the nice Garmin mounts underneath. So if I grab the 906 and the previous 906, this is one of our favorite lights. You can see the 906 used to be, actually used to be 5 lights, 5 separate LEDs instead of 2 LEDs and a DRL. And you can see it's a much larger body. And the big difference here is the mount. So before you had a little simple rubber strap to hold it in place. Now you have a Garmin mount, which is much better. So you can actually use this on all your out front mounts or accessories. As with the previous generation, it's all heat fins. And they've really modernized the new 900, so they're all one color instead of this aluminum with the orange power button. And pretty simple though, otherwise very similar shape. Unfortunately, they have not returned with the 908. Now the 908 was a beast. You can see this side by side. This is just a baby compared to it. 908 was 8,000 theoretical lumens, but only really put out 4,000 due to the battery pack limitations. But you can see it was just massive, and it was one of our favorite lights, and still is. The nice thing about this was it had a OLED screen that actually showed you the runtime and indicator which mode you're in. So with the new ones, you have 15 modes for the 902 and 906. You don't really know what mode you're in, and there's no runtime display. So that was one perk of the previous 908. But with the 906 and 902, you never got the display, so that you haven't really lost anything. But you can definitely see they've improved design and made it more modern. Now these designs are very similar to the Alti series. So you can see the previous Alti series, this is Alti 2000. You had a nice LED here, the DRLs. So same thing here. With the MJ series, they've extended the horizontal deflectors down to help some of the anti-glare abilities of the beam. But again, very soft beam cutoff. I think the big thing here is I really wish they included a OLED screen, as it was kind of one of the best features of the Alti 2000. So it showed you the runtime mode, how much battery you had left. It was a really nice display to have. Here, again, you're kind of in the dark. And if you want lower output, they have smaller variations of these. So you can see If you were to compare the 900 versus the little Alti 400 lumens, this is 1500, and this is, I believe, $30 versus $70. So it really is a great value to get the 900, but you do have a battery pack. With the Alti 400, you can see it's about maybe 40% bigger, but it's all self-contained, no battery, no wire to deal with. So it really depends on what you want. If you want to commute, I definitely recommend sticking with the Altis or the RN or Alti 1000, 2000. But if you want more power and the ability to use a power bank and swap battery packs really easily, definitely go with that. Speaking of the battery packs, this is the older battery pack, and you can see they've really improved the shape and design of these. These were a lot harder to grip. They had the slots on the outside. With these being now integrated, I found they work a lot easier. And another comparison here, this is the Montier 8000. So the brightest light in their current setup. And you can see compared to the 906, which is 4,500 lumens, much more compact, easier to use, and easier to mount on your bike. Now let's go over the pros and cons for the MJ lights. What we like about them is the fact that they have integrated DRLs. This is the first time the MJ series has it, and it's a really nice feature to have when you're riding in the daytime. They're also compatible with e-bikes and the provided battery packs, which means if you have an e-bike, you can directly wire it in and take advantage of your onboard battery, which is a nice feature. They've also switched to the Garmin compatible mount design, which means you don't need any of the rubber straps, and you can mount this on a helmet or out in front mounts. Some of the cons for the lights is the fact that they include a basic handlebar mount. Even the more expensive 906 doesn't come with a out front mount, which we would have liked to see. They also have a very confusing number of output modes. You don't need 15, and it's very easy to get lost since there's no mode display. You just have to click through them and look in front of the light to actually see which mode you're in. And finally, there is no remote for helmet mounting, which makes helmet mounting a little bit difficult, especially when you have 15 modes and you have to click without seeing what you're doing. Taking everything into account, we give the 902 and 906S an 8.7 out of 10. These really extend the heritage of the MJ series and provide a lot of power for really budget price. Thanks for watching this review. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can see more content from us on our website at thesweetcyclist.com, as well as follow us on Instagram at thesweetcyclist. This is The Sweet Cyclist reminding you to enjoy the ride.